Good morning, traders. It is Monday, July the 8th. Taking a look at the charts, we got the SP 500, and what we're looking at here is the trend analysis chart on the left, these green bars where we've dipped down into these lime green oversold territories, popped and rallied into overbought territories, hitting target 1, 2. Since then, it's chopped around, continued to gap and go, and then it gapped down on the last trading session and kind of fizzled its way, doing a gap fade, worked its way back up to fill most of that gap. It's all over the board right now because we're a little bit overbought. And if we take a look at the uh, daily chart here, you can see the lower area. We've got all of our cycles here clustering the last couple sessions in the upper zone, meaning we're probably going to see some type of pullback or at least continued choppiness as the market tries to correct. The last time we saw these get up into the upper zone here, we saw the market have a little bit more of a pullback. We've started this pullback, and we might see some more going forward. So overall, still anticipating some choppiness, but the trend is still up, and we're struggling with this 3,000 whole number. And the market likes to break these numbers. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it run up and do another push. Maybe we end up with more or less 3 surges to a new high, and then we see a big sharp pullback and a much larger correction going forward after that. But short term, we're looking for a pullback in the equities market. And if we take a look at the short-term cycle analysis here, over the next couple sessions, we've got a sideways to more or less lower bias in the market. So keep in mind when the bars are green on the chart, that means we've got an upward trend. When we have downward cycles going against it, it doesn't necessarily mean the market is actually going to pull back. It may just mean the market consolidates and really just kind of holds its ground until the cycle bottoms. And as the cycle starts to pick up, then we can easily see price start to move to new highs again. So we'll see how things go, but again, we're choppy. We're overbought on a bunch of different territories here in the market and some pretty major resistance at this 3,000 mark going forward. Taking a look over at, let's pull up the dollar. The dollar we saw, we're anticipating a bounce in the dollar. It was set up for a big pop there. We ended up getting that pop. That obviously put some downward pressure on the metals, and we saw metals pull back pretty sharp. So if we take a look over at metals, gold, big, pretty much all the miners, gold, silver, they all had a big down day when that news came out with the jobs. More or less, we are seeing a bounce today, pretty much an oversold kind of reaction high. Now, if we look at the short-term chart, our trend analysis in the lime green areas, we've got long gold. It popped and moved really quickly up into an overbought territory. We took some money off the table, tightened our stop up to our break-even point, which is where the market ended up gapping down, closing out our GLD trade for a small profit there. Overall, it does have this little bit of a bear flag. The trend is still up. We didn't get back in simply because if we take a look at the cycle analysis, it is still showing we can have some more downward bias in the market. And based on that kind of bearish formation on the short-term chart, we could easily see this come back down and be under pressure, potentially come down a little bit lower over the next few sessions. On the daily charts, had a nice run, and it is in this kind of upper range. More or less these blue bars, this blue resistance area we've talked about, in this lower area, we could see price ping pong around in here for a while, and we're looking for it to potentially come down to the lower end of this range and consolidate a little bit more. Now, if we take a look over at Let's take a look over at crude oil. We are long crude oil, and you can see here on the trend analysis chart, we got into this oversold territory. We got long crude. Crude had a nice pop. The one morning it actually hit our first target, and then we moved our stop to break even, and we've gone from this downtrend and we're in this new uptrend. We do have some downward bias based over the next trading session for the downward cycle, but again, we are in an uptrend. So the big question is crude going to hold its ground or potentially break and continue to extend here? Or are we going to see more of a pullback and maybe we end up getting stopped out on the second half for a break even on the second half and a small profit on the first half? If we look at the daily chart, more or less we are trading above the key moving average, but both key moving averages, looking at this, it does look like a little bit of a bear flag forming, and we could end up seeing this flush down and have another correction, an ABC correction that could set up for a new long entry down here near support once we get this measured move, if that happens. So really we're at the same type of scenario we had with natural gas, where we got into natural gas where it got oversold. We had a quick pop to our first target. You've got to take profits at the first target area because you never know if the market is going to continue to sell off. And when you do take profits, you got to move your stop up to your entry. Worst case, you get stopped out with a small profit and you can re-enter later. Best case scenario, you take profits early, the thing just keeps on running, and you still got a potential long position in there to catch the remainder of the move to the upside. So that's where we are. Are we going to have something where the market rolls over in crude and we just look for a re-entry later down the road, or are we going to see it get some traction this week and take off to the upside? Looking over at natural gas, we got long in natural gas, and if we take a look, let's pull up the daily chart here. We end up getting long in natural gas right over here. We caught this nice little pop for a quick couple percent gain, and then we got shaken out here on this this 1 day over here. Overall, natural gas ended up popping and really having a big move with a huge gap up this morning. It has been fading down, but overall, we ended up getting shaken out. Natural gas was still in a downtrend. We got in a little early there. We got in somewhere over here. We got out on the pop, and then had a big move down and stopped us out for a small profit there. And then it popped and took off there on Friday. Overall, sometimes we just get shaken out of these trades, and it had some pretty big volatility. That's what natural gas is known for. It moves very quickly, so it is fairly easy to get chopped up and shaken out sometimes before some big moves. So we're going to keep our eyes peeled for the next setup there, and potentially it has had a nice pop to the upside, breaking this previous high. So we might see some type of pause or pullback as it settles into the 20-day, the 5-day moving average, gives us a new entry point to get long. Now, if we take a look over at, I'll just pull up silver real quick here. Silver, obviously big pullback on that news last week. Again, it's down the lower end of its range, trading into support into these candle wicks. And then we got a little bit of a shell shock there the last trading session. So we're just letting metals kind of digest these moves. More or less, we are still anticipating metals to move higher, but they're going to struggle. I still think they're going to struggle for a while. We could see potentially, it's going to be a big range. We could see it take off in the next week or so as it kind of shakes out this, puts a bottom here, or it could consolidate and pull back more for a couple of months. It's really going to see how things unfold, and that's why we're actively trading them at this point, because we're still not in a full-blown bull market. And at this point, we got to be ready, because big sellers could step in at any time and crush this big rally we've seen in metals. It's happened for the last several years. Looking over at miners like the GDXJ, again, we've seen it rally, consolidate, rally, consolidate. It's getting pretty choppy. Overall, it is still in an uptrend. And we've been seeing some of these oversold dips in the market. Let's just pull up our trend analysis here. We got into these oversold dips. You get these strong rallies. We had a big gap down on Friday, strong rally back up to recoup most of it. But overall, we're still anticipating continued choppiness, consolidation. We'll be looking to potentially get back into precious metals here for a continuation run and potential breakout in the near future. Anyways, that's it for this morning. Talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye.